Let's bring in Glenn Ignazio, retired Air Force major. He served as Special Operations Commander and specifically as a combat rescue pilot. So timely to speak with you, sir. And Mark Polymeropoulos, MS Now National Security and Intelligence Analyst and former senior CIA officer. It's why we booked you too, my friends. We have a lot to get to. Let me ask you, Major, because the president has described what happened overnight as one of the most daring and search and rescue operations in U.S. history. Tell us who was involved in the rescue and how did they pull it off?
Yeah, great question. And honestly, this is, our bread and butter, what we do on the Air Force side. So the first pilot, or at least the pilot that was shot down, the combat rescue mission, they completely went through as immediate as possible and got that pilot out. That's a combination of our Pavehawk helicopters, our Combat King aircraft, which are different than cargo, and our pararescue, which is their specialty to go down and get that. And the second one, because that was more complicated, we had initial signals of that the aviator was alive. And from that, we then have a pre-planned mission. Of course, because it's more complicated, we'd be able to set that forward. The same type of aircraft are utilized in this, including what we call MC-130, their special mission 130 aircraft with special operations and the combat rescue teams. They went in with a combat or a combined forces of, again, special forces and combat rescue to get that second aviator out. And that's because we're in more of a high-risk mission to be able to get deeper in and extract that individual and save him.
A few more details for you, Major, though, because the New York Times reports that the colonel only had a pistol for his defense. He hid in a mountain crevice with his location initially unknown to Americans who were trying to rescue him, as well as the Iranians who were trying to capture him. And the paper quoted one senior U.S. military official saying at one point that officer hiked up a 7,000-foot ridge line. So talk about the skills and the equipment that he would have had to survive this.
Sure. And this is nice. Again, you do one rescue, save one life, it makes your career. And so to give you an idea of how that is actually executed is the pilots, when they eject, they actually just have one pistol on. And that's because that's really all you can carry in a survival situation. And as soon as that aviator hits the ground, the parachute is a big signaling device. So the biggest thing is to get away from that as quickly as possible, because as much as we're looking for them, so is the adversary. So they're going to try to do that. And if the rescue forces are not on top, they're going to try to hole up. That means hide. That's using terrain, foliage, whatever, camouflage. And at that point, if you can get further away from them, so such a peak like that, it's harder for the adversary. It's better for rescue forces. Night is what we dominate. And so that was the best thing for the individual to do. But being wounded, being hurt, impacts all of that. And that's why the pararescue is there. They're incredible individuals to do that in the Special Forces Air Force.
And Mark, CIA played a huge role in this rescue. The president said as the weapons systems officer was hunted down by enemies getting closer by the hour, he was never truly alone because his location was being monitored 24 hours a day. And MS Now learned the CIA confused Iranians. They had a deception campaign spreading false accounts inside Iran that the U.S. had already found that officer. How did all this play out?
Well, this is really an incredible story. And as the major knows, there's a whole ecosystem in the U.S. military, special operations world, and the intelligence community for personnel recovery. I mean, this is before conflicts. People go over this. You are prepped for this. Obviously, the colonel, the WISO, the weapons officer, went through SEER school and knew about, escape and evasion tactics. And there is a role for the intelligence community. Again, that can be everything from using networks on the ground. These are recruited sources who can kind of provide assistance and what we call assisted recovery. It could be, again, using other types of methods in which to spread disinformation, perhaps trying to confuse the Iranians to the location of the pilot. But it really, it's quite incredible. If you're lost behind enemy lines, this is a testament to just the notion that the U.S. government will move heaven and earth to get you back. And, there's a lot of U.S. military equipment that was lost here, probably several $100 million worth. And every penny of it was worth it because someone's coming home. An extraordinary operation. Again, the fusion of intelligence and the special operations world, honed from 20 years of conflict together. I'll say that, with great Americans like the general, like the major, we worked very closely over the years in the global war on terrorism. And this is the fruits of this now. Really amazing.
And to that point that Mark made there, Major, the $700 million of military equipment that was destroyed, The Wall Street Journal reports the U.S. destroyed 2 of its own military planes during this rescue operation, and it reports by the New York Times that a senior military official says they were transport planes to return all troops to safety, but 2 got stuck somehow, so the decision was made to bring in 3 new planes and blow up the 2 disabled planes rather than have them fall into Iranian hands. What are your thoughts on this aspect of the rescue, and did this add another layer of danger for U.S. troops?
As we're saying, this is one of the most dangerous missions. And, our motto is these things that we do that others may live. And that's been the Air Force motto that's engraved in our DNA. And so when this operation goes, we do a significant amount of contingencies when we're able to do a pre-planned mission like this. So contingency like that, yes, the aircraft got stuck or whatever situation occurred. And at that point, because we do have specialized systems, and it is a specialized aircraft. Again, it's not just a cargo, it's an MC-130 aircraft. So one of the things that we'll do is we will bomb those particular aircraft and or destroy them on the ground because we don't want that to get to an adversary. So at the time when those 2 were damaged or whatever on the ground, we then brought in the other 3 to extract the team, similar special mission aircraft, and then we destroy whatever's left on the ground. That's to make sure the adversary doesn't get anything. And to also note is this is probably one of the most significant combined operations in military and the intelligence community that I've seen in ages. You hear these stories and read about them, say, from World War II, but this is probably one of the most public combined operation between the intelligence and the military that I've seen in ages. It's been great.
And Mark, some news outlets are reporting on U.S. intelligence agency assessment saying that Iran maintains significant missile launching capability and is quickly repairing underground missile bunkers. So from an intelligence point of view, Mark, were the shoot-downs of not 1 but 2 American fighter jets a surprise to U.S. officials?
Well, look, the enemy always gets a vote. And while we might certainly have, air superiority over Iran, and we do, there can be anything from kind of a golden BB, a lucky shot, or it could be, frankly, the Iranians could have brought in some more advanced systems. There's been certainly reports of the Russians providing assistance, possible Chinese assistance as well. And so, this is an armed conflict. And again, the Iranians are fighting back. And, I think one of the things that it's incumbent on the president to do, and I'm sure Central Command has done as well in advice to the National Security Staff, is that none of this is really going to be pain-free. I mean, we hope it won't be, but as we talk about this conflict increasing, and you see, of course, some of the statements from President Trump about the Tuesday deadline, the ultimatum, also the notion of potential U.S. ground forces in Iran, I think that the idea that the Iranians are going to fight back and our U.S. aircraft might still be at risk is something that is actually planned for. And unfortunately, I think the American people have to understand that's something that might occur in the future. But again, this moment that we saw was absolutely extraordinary. Again, the major is 100% right. I've never seen anything like this. And I really do think that's 20 years worth of practice, preparation, planning, and really expertise from the 2 sides. And it's a good day to be an American.
Pretty extraordinary. Very quickly, Major, do you think members of the military appreciate the president's rhetoric like that, which he posted on Truth Social this morning? Does it ever cross their minds potentially that this might not work out well for us?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I mean, there's always, we try to take it apolitical because it's one of those things that when diplomacy fails, that's when military operations do take in consideration. I think one of the things we do think about is, how does that impact maybe psychologically the other, adversary? How does that sort of get to things? But as far as the military operations, they may increase, but in all honesty, we're in a full-scale war right now. And the idea that we've lost some aircraft, again, don't want to lose one, but this is actually really minimal. But at the same time, you do have a great question. I think that geopolitically and globally, it does have a bigger impact on what the impression of everybody else is on us. But from a military operation, we're still looking at this as a biggest adversary because we always consider that. And that's what we're focused on. Otherwise, we're distracted, and that can be very dangerous for us. That's why we stay really focused on it.
Okay. Major Glenn Ignazio, Mark Polymeropoulos. Gentlemen, thank you both so much.